This week, I'm going to share the top 7 reasons why our neighbors are trying to stop our campground from getting approved. If you're new to this channel, my name is Michael Patterson, and my family and I are trying to build an eco-friendly campground on 113 acres in Sanford, Maine. A campground, by the way, on this land is an allowed use of the local zoning. In this video, I also shed light on what our neighbors are saying about campgrounds, and you can decide if their claims have any merit. Now let's get after it right now. First on the list of claims against a campground is the damage it will do to the pond. Sand Pond is a spring-fed 30-acre body of water that drains into the Great Works River. Over the years, you can see from this drone footage that many of the neighbors have clear-cut right to the water's edge. They have destroyed and ripped out the vegetation in order to gain a better view of the pond and to enjoy a sandy area, all at the sacrifice of the environment. Insects, birds, and rodents that once depended on the vegetation that occupied these areas were forced to move on to the remaining areas that are still forested to the water's edge. Just look at how these people are treating their waterfront. And some may even illegally fill their waterfront, which is a direct violation of the laws established by the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. I've lived on this pond for over 20 years, and although I can't claim to be a perfect inhabitant of the pond, I think the fact that our 200 feet of frontage still being heavily forested is a testament that if we build a campground, we won't be contributing to the damage our neighbors have already done to the shoreline. Second, our neighbors claim that a campground will introduce additional pollution beyond what they are already contributing to the pond. Consider this: some of the cottages on the pond have septic systems that are either dangerously close to the pond or may be utilizing septic systems that are beyond their useful life. The state of Maine requires that septic systems be 100 feet from the lake and 100 feet from any well. This restriction is in place to keep the pond and everyone's drinking water safe. Take a look at some of the subsurface wastewater disposal system variance requests from our neighbors. This one states that the septic system is only 60 feet from their own well and only 61 feet from the neighbor's well. How would you feel about your neighbor's septic system being only 61 feet from your drinking water? Well, it gets worse. Here's another variance request from one of our neighbors on the pond asking for a septic system variance where the septic disposal is only 80 feet from the pond and 60 feet to the well. The variance goes on to say that the lot the cottage sits on is fill over peat. What do you think the chances are that the effluent from the leach field is going to travel through the peat and into the pond and the neighbor's well? Here's another variance request where the disposal field to the potable water supply is only 41 feet to the neighbor's well. If I kept pulling town records, I'm sure I could have found more examples like this. Guys, I would think our neighbors would be getting sick over this. These people are worried about a campground polluting the pond when they are already probably doing the most damage to the pond, as well as potentially endangering the health of the local residents. Our proposed campground is bringing in town water to make sure we limit the impact to the local aquifer, and our proposed septic systems are over 400 feet from the pond. The experts that we have consulted with have reassured us that we are taking the steps necessary to make absolutely sure our septic systems will be safe for our campers and our neighbors for many years to come. Before I move on to the third claim, I want to point out that destroying vegetation along the pond's shoreline and placing septic systems too close to the pond are the top 2 factors that lead to the destruction of a healthy pond ecosystem. I'll leave a link to this resource in the description down below. If our neighbors truly cared about the pond, they would revegetate their shorelines and move their septic systems further away from not only the pond, but also the potable water supplies. Okay, here's the third claim. The neighbors state that a campground will introduce noise pollution to the neighborhood. First of all, the sound of children's voices playing or even occasionally crying for many of us is the sound of summer and joy. Campers in general are quiet people. They go camping to relax and enjoy the outdoors. Troublemakers are quickly reported to the office, and if those noisemakers don't settle down, they are told to leave the park. You can't do that to neighbors who own properties. You pretty much have to put up with it. Campers, on the other hand, simply won't return to a campground where the management doesn't enforce the rules. The same holds true for noise pollution caused by barking dogs. Listen to this dog that has been barking on the pond for a few years now. The barking echoes across the pond every day, all year long, for hours. Campers would never put up with a barking dog in the park. There are strict rules on pet control in all campgrounds. And if the rules aren't enforced, the campground will suffer from poor reviews and a drop in business. Barking camper dogs are not an issue. The fourth claim is light pollution. First of all, this will be a brand new campground. The Code Enforcement Office in Sanford, Maine has rules on the types of lighting we can install. There will be no light pollution, not only because of local codes, but because campers can't stand bright lights at night. They want to enjoy a night sky, watch lightning bugs, and relax next to a small fire, talking with friends before they turn in for the night. Bright lights are bad business for a campground. Fifth, the neighbors claim that a 40-site campground will cause excessive amounts of traffic on the road. No one can deny that more people in the area won't cause more traffic, because obviously it will. In order to address the traffic problem, we put in a separate road for the campground that runs parallel with the private road used by the neighbors, and there's a 100-foot buffer between them. This was done out of courtesy to our neighbors and results in no additional traffic past their cottages and homes. The sixth claim really bothers me. Some of our neighbors claim that a campground will bring in the types of people they really don't want around their real estate. Specifically, they have stated that they are worried about campers stealing things from their properties, trespassing, and littering in the area. First of all, if necessary, campgrounds can discriminate by price. The campground we have planned will be eco-friendly and have top-of-the-line utilities. Campgrounds of America stated that the average cost to build a campground today is about $55,000 per campsite. We are making a massive investment to build this campground right. My wife and I have been very fortunate in life, and we are building a campground to keep us busy and to meet new people, and certainly don't want to deal with problem campers. Many of the RVs that campers travel in today are in excess of $200,000, and when they roll into a campsite, they expect cleanliness. Campsites littered with trash lead to poor online reviews. Campers in general tend to be eco-conscious and generally dispose of their trash correctly. Of course, we expect to find some garbage laying around and will patrol the property daily to ensure that it gets picked up. Do you have an opinion on this? Please leave a constructive comment down below. I'd love to hear from you about this. I have lived amongst my neighbors for over 20 years, and I'm outside a lot because I maintain our private road as a courtesy to my neighbors and because, frankly, I enjoy doing it. On several occasions, I have watched neighbors throw beer cans, Dunkin' Donuts cups, food wrappers, and cigarette butts out the windows of their cars. Do you find this hard to believe? Look at these pictures I have taken in the last 2 years of the garbage our neighbors have been throwing on our property. I'll stop short of showing you all the pictures. Now, why did I take these pictures, you ask? Because my wife and I have long dreamed of starting a campground. And before going to the town for approval, we attended campground trade shows and conventions to learn about the industry to help ensure our chances of success. The topic of neighbor opposition to a campground came up several times during these events, and we were educated on what to prepare for. Sure enough, our neighbors are raising the exact issues we were warned about. I even had one opposing neighbor tell me to my face, quote, "I have nothing against campgrounds, I just don't want one in my backyard," end quote. Okay, here it is, guys. Claim number 7. Some of the neighbors stated that a campground will decrease their real estate values. If you ask them for proof, they will come up with lame examples that really have no basis for accuracy. I'm a licensed realtor in Maine. If you're curious, I'll leave a link to our YouTube channel in the description down below. I cannot find any proof anywhere that supports the claim that a well-run campground will decrease local property values. In contrast, one could probably make a false claim that a campground will increase property values, but I doubt it. Real estate values will continue to increase because Mother Nature isn't making any more waterfront property. Our RV sites will be over 100 feet from the water's edge, and all vegetation on over 500 feet of frontage will be left intact for the birds, insects, rodents, amphibians, and campers to enjoy together. Once again, if you have a comment, please leave it down below. And if you want to learn more about what we're going through to get this campground approved, watch this next video.